How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL video, and today we are going to be taking a look at PEP Roulette. That's right, we're going to be trying to guess Pep Guardiola's Manchester City lineup for Game Week 27, which is another double game week. We got it horribly wrong last week in the double game week. He kind of did somewhat similar to what I was thinking he was going to do, but he did them in the different games, and we'll get onto that once we get to the lineups and whatnot. I thought he was going to basically play with a striker in the first game versus West Ham, and then not play with a striker versus Wolves, which was something that he kind of did it the other way around. So it was a bit interesting there. Ended up playing with a striker in both games, actually. But ultimately, I thought that he would try to mix it up a little bit. I have a little bit more of an idea of what he's going to potentially do this week, as he does play Man United and Southampton, which are two very different teams in their own right, as well as very different teams from the opposition that he just played in West Ham and Wolves. So hopefully we can get the answers right and see how correct we are come this game. If you haven't done so already, make sure to leave a like on the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. And drop us a follow over on Twitter so you can keep up to date with all the content that is being pushed out. Been a bit more active over there, as well as when we go live on Twitch, so you can give us a follow over there as well. We will be doing a preview stream on Thursday, 7 p.m. EST, after all the games have finished for Double Game Week 26. And we will be back for the deadline stream 2 days later, 1 hour before the deadline for Double Game Week 27. So without further ado, let's see what Pep Guardiola put out for the Wolves match, the second of the Double Game Week in 26. So this was the team sheet that Pep Guardiola put out. In both the games, they won. Man City winning 2-1, just marginally, over West Ham at home, as well as getting a 4-1 win over Wolves, although a lot of the goals came late. It was quite close for quite a period of time. And I think I actually mentioned when watching the game, wouldn't be surprised if, 20 minutes later, it was around the 70th minute mark, this game ends up 4-5-1 or something like that. Ended up being 4-1. And it came through the brilliance of Mahrez and Gabriel Jesus' poaching potential. Two players that did quite well overall, and Jesus has basically returned in both games that he started in the last four. We'll get onto that in just a bit, but this is the lineup that he put out. Arguably his strongest, most potent back five, barring Laporte for Stones, but again, Laporte with his left foot can be quite useful. He can also play in the center of the three. He can play on the left of the three. It doesn't really matter. I have him in, to the right and Diaz to the left. They should be swapped around, but Walker, Laporte, and Diaz kind of play as more of a back three, and Cancelo kind of pushes into the midfield. De Bruyne, still looking a bit rusty, was selected again, coming in place of Gundogan. Bernardo Silva's maintaining his place, and Rodri coming in for Fernandinho. And Mahrez getting a goal and assist. Again, I think we predicted him to be one of our differential picks for this game week in the midfield slot, and did quite well with that, getting 2 assists and a goal across the 2 games. So, and he's played 90 minutes in the past 4 games, so someone who's this in form, I don't think can be dropped, especially versus Man United. Maybe he sees a rest versus Southampton. We'll have to see on that front. And the only substitution being Gundogan, who came in for Bernardo Silva and actually got an assist by a lucky kind of a patted down save from Patricio, which Jesus was able to tap home. But overall, the West Ham game was a bit interesting. So instead of this team here, you had Mahrez on the right. Instead of Sterling, there was a lot of players dropped in that game. Ferran Torres started out on the left. De Bruyne and Gundogan both played. They had Fernandinho instead of Rodri, so we got that wrong there as well. Cancelo was dropped. Stones and Diaz we got right. But then Walker and Zinchenko came in there. So a lot of shifting and changing there overall. So, and Foden, who was a player that was supposed to be quite good potentially for this double game week, didn't actually feature. I don't remember him coming on as a sub. He didn't come on in the Wolves game, and I can't remember if he came on in the West Ham game, but let me know in the comments down below. I don't think he played at all. So he went from having a double game week to a blank game week, and I think he was the only player that I can remember that didn't get any significant minutes that would normally be like a starter. So Walker played, Laporte, Stones, Diaz, Cancelo, Bernardo, Rodri, Fernandinho, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Mahrez, Jesus, Aguero, Sterling, Ferran Torres. All of those players got minutes, and I think Foden was the only one that didn't. So if you had Foden, Bit unlucky there, but that comes with the territory. But looking at this lineup, I can definitely see what Pep is potentially going to go with versus Man United. Big derby this weekend, so that should be interesting to see. And it'll probably be Pep's best team on paper, so we'll have to see kind of how that pans out. And then he may change some things up versus Southampton. So let's take a look at one of the players I want to highlight that's been getting consistent minutes over the past few game weeks. So someone that we touted in our differential picks was Riyad Mahrez, and he's got 90 minutes over the past 4 game weeks consecutively. 90 minutes versus Everton, Arsenal, West Ham, and Wolves, and getting a return in every single one of those games, doing quite well for himself overall. You know, on his day, Mahrez is one of the best players in the Premier League, hands down. He was very influential in Leicester's title win, combining with Jamie Vardy. And he showed how good of a player he is tonight, pretty much single-handedly running the right-hand side, cutting in on his left, creating chances, or, you know, taking the ball line and crossing it into the box with his right, which he's actually quite adept with when it comes to passing or crossing the ball. And people have often said that Mahrez is, you know, somewhat of a greedy player, but I think he's kind of fully buying into this new system now. At the at the start of the season, wasn't really understanding kind of how Cancelo was coming into the coming in field and having him to hold the width, but now he knows that he can use his individual skill at times. At certain moments, he just has to choose the best moments, and then he can get involved and create havoc on that side. And I think Luke Shaw or Alex Telles, whoever plays at left back, most likely will be Luke Shaw, is going to have their hands full if Mahrez were to start, which I think he should do, and he'll probably see a rest in the Southampton game. But yeah, 8.1 million. I think he's tied on points now with Raheem Sterling, which is something that we didn't expect, given Raheem Sterling's kind of prominence, as it were, although he did have a poor start, then had a good run, and then Mahrez was kind of phased out of the team for a little bit. But yeah, Mahrez has done quite well for himself. 8.1 million could be a bit of a steal. Would expect him to be rested in the Southampton game for sure, but could be back raring to go in the Fulham game. But you never know with Pep. You never know. I think his best run is definitely behind him for sure. 9.7 points, 5 points, 12 points. You're not going to get much more returns than that. And I think any owners coming out with 17, 18 points, whatever it is, for the double game week, looking quite good. But let's take a look at a striker who's been scoring every time he basically seems to start, but isn't necessarily getting those consistent starts up front. And that player is Gabriel Jesus, somebody who's been criticized for his finishing and is a very frustrating player to watch, let alone an FPL asset, who's someone who can regularly be benched, as well as always has had Aguero looming on the horizon. Now that he's back, I don't see Jesus being someone who can, be a full-time FPL asset. Obviously, the golden rule with Man City's team, if Jesus or Aguero is out, you usually play the other one, and then their minutes get managed, but they're going to start from the beginning in most cases. With Jesus, the 2 times he started and got 90 minutes, he's returned in both of them, getting a brace tonight versus Wolves, and got an assist versus Everton in their 3-1 win there as well. But when coming off the bench, doesn't seem to really get in the flow of things. He takes a while. He's not this critical kind of pinpoint striker. He's a volume striker. He needs a lot of shots, much like Patrick Bamford, to get on the score sheet. But it's definitely lively. His link-up play has been quite decent over the past few game weeks, where he's able to kind of bring other players into place, spinning around, creating space for the likes of Mahrez, for the likes of Sterling, and these sorts of players, as well as Gundogan arriving late, because he's pulling strikers towards defenders towards the 6-yard box, and then Gundogan pops up as a striker on the penalty spot, and that's why Gundogan has been doing so well as well. But in terms of his position wise, he kind of is one of the reasons why Pep can change systems from the kind of 6 flowing midfielders to kind of a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, and he kind of plays in like kind of a false 9 role in some cases, but is also taking a position away from the likes of De Bruyne playing the false 9, Bernardo Silva playing the false 9, Sterling, Mahrez, these sorts of players. So it's kind of frustrating that we never really want him as an FPL asset, but if he does play 90 minutes, he's usually quite good for, a good few chances. Just a matter of if you can put them away. But 9.2 million, I'm not going to go there necessarily. If you did have him for this week, 14 points, not a bad return there overall. And I think that going forward, again, we'll have to monitor the situation, but don't think he's going to be a good FPL asset. He's just kind of taking away from Pep's kind of 6 midfielders, where he plays a false 9 with 2 wide players and then kind of pushes Cancelo into the midfield and has Gundogan and Bernardo Silva push up with a kind of a deep-lying defensive playmaker in like Rodri or Fernandinho, someone who could press well, basically. But let's take a look at the last player who's been Mr. Consistent and is probably one of the mainstays of Man City's team this season. And that player that I'm referring to is none other than Ruben Diaz, somebody who plays 90 minutes game in, game out, the rock at the back, the leader at the back. He's been a fantastic buy for City this season, and 6.1 million still seems quite cheap for somebody that started at 5.5 million. Will probably end up being 7.5 million next season due to the amount of clean sheets that City are keeping. 12 points in the double game week, getting himself a goal, even though both of those games didn't end in a clean sheet, funnily enough. But overall did quite well. Commands from the back, very imposing on set plays, both offensively and defensively, and it struck up a fantastic partnership with John Stones, who I expect both of them to play versus Man United, and will definitely cause United problems on set plays, as well as be quite, forced and imposing on United's forwards. If we try to go with potentially Martial up front, he may get bullied off the ball. If we try to go with Cavani's movement, I expect Diaz and Stones to kind of keep with him. But we'll have to see. Cavani's a bit more experienced. Diaz is a lot younger, but he's a very intelligent player, and you can see him making micro adjustments during his positioning, even as the play is, kind of developing. So I think that in hindsight, probably should have gone with Diaz in my own personal team. I went with Cancelo. Thought a little bit more upside there with them being the same price, but Diaz is the one, when it comes to double game weeks, he's going to play both games. I expect him to play both games versus Man United and Southampton, and I don't expect him to basically get another rest for the rest of the season unless they play somebody like a Fulham, like a Sheffield United, like these sorts of teams where he could potentially take the day off, or even they play a 3 center-back system with Laporte, Diaz and Stones, and they have Cancelo do a lot of the legwork and have Diaz kind of just chill in a back 3 where he doesn't really have to do that much defending and kind of take a rest in games, as it were. But let's take a look at my predicted lineup, at least for versus Manchester United in the first of the 2 double game weeks. So this is my predicted lineup. This is what I expect to be Manchester City's best lineup going into double game week 27 based on form. So Cancelo, for me, definitely has to play, and I think Pep will definitely play him. Diaz and Stones, no arguments there. They're definitely going to play. Ederson as well. Walker, I think, is kind of a niche pick in this instance because I think Walker and Zinchenko kind of 50-50 on that. But I think with Marcus Rashford being the left-sided forward in Manchester United's attack, you need that pace to kind of be able to track in behind, and I think Walker is going to be able to do that on that side. Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, and Rodri have been fantastic over the run-in of the past 8 to 12 games, as well as Riyad Mahrez is the man in form. I would have potentially put Phil Foden there, but Riyad Mahrez has been doing so well, and I think that he definitely deserves a start, and will give Luke Shaw or Alex Telles, most likely Luke Shaw, problems on that, on that right-hand side, Man United's left-hand fullback side. De Bruyne, I think, will definitely play, and we'll often see Gundogan and him switching places when getting in towards the box. De Bruyne will probably sit on the edge, where Gundogan will go forward. And then Sterling, I think, will play as well. Although if I was Pep, I would play Foden because Sterling typically has, a bit of trouble in these games. And I think Foden, being a young English player, much like Wan-Bissaka, who will probably be his competition, may have something a bit different. Wan-Bissaka's kind of seen a lot from Sterling and has had his number every time. So I would personally put Foden in over Sterling, but I think that Pep will go with Sterling, who was rested in the West Ham game. On the bench, obviously, Jesus and Aguero, 2 players that can definitely come in and change the game if they need to. But I think City's game plan with United is they know United's going to sit back and try to hit City on the break. United's not going to play a high line versus City. It's just basically, crazy to do that, in my opinion. And they're going to try to use the pace of maybe Rashford and Dan James and these sorts of players in order to hit City on the break, which is why Walker's definitely in there, Sterling's in there, Bernardo Silva's in there, and De Bruyne is in there. They're going to give you that massive work rate in the middle of the park. They're also going to keep interchanging roles, and they're going to cause problems for Fred and McTominay, who can be quite static in their own right. They kind of get, kind of sit there and ball watch at times, but they can also be too overzealous. There's sometimes not really a middle ground against, like, you know, really good opposition that know how to pull you apart. And often, if the ball is moved quickly and City are able to kind of, you know, have the ball in possession, slowly knock it around, and then quickly shift second, third, fourth, fifth gear, and then play the killer pass, that can definitely beat Fred and McTominay quite easily. As well as Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka typically are caught on ball switches from side to side. So I can easily see Mahrez kind of coming back on his left foot, switching it across to a late surging Cancelo, who can knock it in towards Sterling, who makes a run and cuts it back for Gundogan. That could be some type of goal that we potentially see. Moving into the Southampton fixture, it's going to be a little bit more high intensity here. And I expect with you know, with the Man United game, there'll definitely be some rotation. It's going to be a very exhausting game. I can see maybe potentially Cancelo getting dropped. Cancelo or Walker potentially. And Laporte will come in at left back, I think, having potentially seeing a rest in the Man United game. He'll probably fill in at like kind of left back, and they'll play 3 center backs just to cover themselves and able to basically stifle Danny Ings and the likes of Che Adams, who will potentially play up front. They'll have the 3v2 advantage. They could potentially you know, play Walker right back and Cancelo on the bench with Laporte at left back, or, you know, Cancelo can play at right back as well. In the midfield, I think they'll potentially move to another striker. They'll probably drop one of, I would probably say, it could be De Bruyne's turn for a rest potentially, although he has just come back and should be quite fresh, although he has been rusty in large portions of games. I think Bernardo Silva, having had his rest, I think he'll play. Same with Gundogan, same as Sterling. Potentially Mahrez will get rested in this game. Maybe De Bruyne still plays the false 9. Maybe Foden comes in at the false 9 or on the right-hand side. Or you maybe see De Bruyne jumps back into the midfield with Gundogan. Bernardo Silva moves out to the left-hand side. Foden goes on the right-hand side, and then you play Aguero or Jesus through the middle. But if I had to guess for the Southampton game, I would say that Cancelo probably plays again. Walker, back-to-back games, probably is going to get a rest. Same with Cancelo, but you have to pick between the two, and I think Cancelo is probably more effective for them versus Southampton if you're going to play with the 3 center-back system I'm going with. Stones, Diaz, Laporte in Cancelo's position. I'm going to go with De Bruyne, Rodri, and Gundogan. Just kind of that solid base midfield. I'm going to go with the likes of Sterling out on the left-hand side. I'm going to go with Bernardo Silva out on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, Foden doesn't get in for me. And I'm going to go with the likes of Gabriel Jesus through the middle. I think he's going to be good at pressing and counter-pressing versus Southampton press as well. But yeah, that's what I think that Pep Guardiola is potentially going to kind of shift things around for double game week 27. And that's going to do it for this week's edition of Pep Roulette. If you haven't done so already, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. And make sure to drop us a follow over on Twitter so you can keep up to date with all the content that is going out, as well as give us a follow over on Twitch so that you can catch us when we go live for our preview and deadline streams, which we will be doing one on Thursday, 7 p.m. EST for the Double Game Week 27 preview. Game weeks are flying by fast, and it's almost the end of the season already. As chips are flying around, so are the game weeks, as well as a deadline stream on Saturday, 1 hour before the FPL deadline. So make sure to check us out for that as well. That's 5 a.m. EST. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.